In July, we covered the agonising wait facing many patients needing life-saving organ transplants and the fight for Wales to become the first place in the UK to have an opt-out system of organ donation.
I was diagnosed at 3.5 months old. I've got glycogen storage disease, type 1A. So basically I've got an enzyme missing in my liver that breaks down the sugar, so instead it stores it. I suffer from low sugar levels and I need to eat constantly, and when I get really ill I have to go into hospital. When I was 17 I had to have an operation. I had to have a fifth of my liver removed, and I mean since then my health's just gone downhill totally.
Kerrianne Phillips from Tregaron in mid Wales has been ill for most of her life. She's spent half of it in hospital.
Most people know that your liver regenerates, but mine just hasn't stopped regenerating, so it gets bigger and bigger, but the bigger it gets, the more my liver's struggling, but then it gets bigger to try and cope with, not functioning properly. But at the minute it's about 2 stone overweight, hence the big belly. But like the last couple of years I've sort of got used to it, but I mean it is really, really painful, hence the fact I'm on all the painkillers. But it's annoying because people just assume that I'm pregnant. And it's like, when it first started getting big, I was getting called names and everything else. But, I mean, I just get used to it, don't you?
Kerrianne desperately needs a new liver. Like hundreds of other people in Wales, she's on a waiting list for an organ transplant, and donors are in short supply.
Without a transplant, what's the future hold for you?
My liver's just deteriorating, so they don't really want to have to say. I think it's kind of obvious at the minute.
MPs are being lobbied to allow Wales to bring in an opt-out system. Under it, you would no longer, as currently happens, have to register your desire to donate your organs when you die. Instead, consent would automatically be presumed, unless you opt out. It's what's known as a soft version of the scheme, though, where members of your close family can veto donation.
We don't want to force people to give. We want people to have the option, and their relatives to have the option to say no. So that's key to us.
How difficult has it been to convince the politicians?
Not difficult, because people have seen that people are dying and the importance of the change in legislation. There is some opposition in certain quarters, but slowly that's melted away.
There are so many people out there who, if you ask them, they say, yeah, I'm happy for my organs to be taken if something should happen to me, but they never get round to filling in a card and saying so. So what we're looking at is a system where the assumption is that an individual wants to donate their organs unless they opt out or unless the family objects.
There are those in the Assembly, though, who are still unhappy about the plan changes.
I don't think that the state can merely assume that just because you're dead that they have the right to use your organs just because you haven't uttered any view about it whilst you were alive. I do think, however, that the concept of merely changing the legislation on its own misses a very fundamental point, and that is that when you look at any other system of organ donation in the world where there's been a change to one of presumed consent, nothing actually has happened until the infrastructure has been put in place to support that.
The problem we have for organ transplantation in Wales is not lack of facilities or lack of surgeons, it's lack of organs. If you create a situation where there are enough organs for people who need those organs to be able to live, then the infrastructure follows.
Since the programme went out, a new unit has opened at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff, doubling the number of beds available for transplant patients. Meanwhile, last month, the Welsh Assembly government called again for action at Westminster on an opt-out scheme for organ donation.
Well, it was a statement by the Health Minister, Edwina Hart, pressing again for the UK government to look at this and asking the Attorney General for a change in the law. And the pressure is now on the UK government to go back to the Welsh Assembly and ensure that the wishes of the people of Wales are accepted.
Kerrianne Phillips is still fighting for a change in the law and praying for a new liver. She spent much of the last 4 months in hospital.
My health has deteriorated a hell of a lot. I'm spending more time in hospital. I'm getting less time at home. a lot of the time, you know, I'm not up for visitors or anything because I just don't feel well, or I'm asleep, or I'm in a diabetic coma. So, but I don't know, I hope that I'll be home soon, even just for over Christmas, because I spent last Christmas in and I don't really want to spend this Christmas in.
And what would your favourite Christmas present be?
I don't know. I don't know, because I mean everyone sort of expects me to say a liver, but at the same time, you know, it is a terrifying experience. You know, not sure whether you're going to make it through, or, you know, everything's going to be as perfect as you think it is. You know, and then you're still going to be sick in hospital and getting used to having a new liver and a new life and everything else. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love for it to be a new liver, but at the same time it's a really, really, really terrifying experience.